Attention, if you please.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Could I ask you something? Do you think you're funny? That's what I like to know.
This is
Intermission.
On anybody's mind? Like your poem about?
Today's intermission guest slash co-host slash I guess we're just gonna talk now is Alexis Sheeks. We already did that whole intro thing though. So
yeah.
For those of you who missed it in the beginning, we tried to find a co-host, an intermission guest. I had an intermission guest slotted that I gave the wrong date to. Sorry, Justina, and then so she said she can't do it, but it's fine. So she's going to fill in for another intermission slot that someone couldn't do, unfortunately. And then I also had to find a new co-host this week because Alexis wasn't originally slotted for this, but Julia couldn't do it because Julia's busy. And then we tried calling some of the freshman girls, but all three that we could think of are sadly busy. And now we're here.
Yeah. At least one of them answered their phones.
Yes, even though she was technically in class. Thank you. Is it Kirsten? It's Kirsten, right?
Yes.
Not Kristen.
Yeah.
Kirsten. How has your Women's History Month been going, Alexis? Have you been celebrating every day?
Well, I celebrated the one day where it was like, woo! I know, like Ben told me, Happy Women's Appreciation Day, and I was like...
the Women's International Day where everyone, if you were a woman, you didn't go to work or something like that.
Oh, was that? I don't think I was going to school that day. I think I was at USITT.
Yes, I think it was like last
So
week.
I wasn't even here.
Last Wednesday.
Yep, I wasn't in this state. I've definitely had quite a few conversations with other women about how we felt it sucks to be women sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like talking about how certain men that we both know have had a tendency to talk over us. Yeah.
Yes. Perhaps in this very school.
Yeah.
In this very theatrical department.
And it's like I don't feel the need to shout over them because I'm like, I'll just sit here and wait for you to be done and then say my business. But some people think I should just shout over them to get the point across. Well,
then it's so difficult, I feel, because then you get much easily, you get labeled much quicker as a woman with a lot of negative...
Yeah, like as a hysterical woman.
Adjectives, as opposed to just doing it as a guy. You're like, oh, you can get away with a lot more as a man.
Oh, it's like you're a boss when you're talking loudly over everyone else.
You're not being bitchy. You're being bitchy if you're a woman. Yep.
Yeah, so being a woman's fun.
Yeah, that's tough. You're kind of, just looking at your hat, you're kind of wearing one of those hats they wore for the Women's March, but not really. It's a different color. It's kind of close to that.
It's just a regular beanie. It's a red one.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they can see this.
If you watch the, online, the YouTube clip of this. Yeah. Do you have any big plans for the rest of Women's History Month?
Well, no, but I might make some now. I could go down to D.C. probably and see if there's anything happening over spring break.
True. I mean, I think there are like daily, weekly protests in D.C. these days.
That'd be kind of cool.
Depends on what you're there for. I know there's a climate march coming up and a scientist march coming up. I think there's a climate march on Earth Day in April, and I think there's a scientist march around there. Or the scientist march might be on Earth Day. I'm not really sure. One of the two.
There's a lot of marches going on.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if you need to get your March fix in and protest, now's the time to do it. There's so much to protest because of our horrible, horrible government.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun time.
Yeah, wonderful to be alive. Mm-hmm. I sadly did not keep up with this tradition, but freshman year, was it freshman year or was it sophomore year? There was a time in the middle of my college career, I was trying to go to a protest once a semester. I did not get to that. I only did 2. But I went to, I think it was spring semester of my freshman year. I went to a No Keystone Pipeline protest in D.C., which was fun. We started in Georgetown. A bunch of entitled white people got to walk down the streets of, it wasn't only white people, but it was predominantly Caucasian. Walked down the streets of D.C., and then we made it in front of the White House, and some people were voluntarily zip tying themselves to the White House lawn. But then, like, if you're gonna do that, they knew you'd be arrested, and then you have to like go through like processing and pay a fee and blah 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 blah. But it was very fascinating because there were a lot of like, if you've ever been to D.C., you know that there are a ton of cops.
Yeah.
Like they just have
They're everywhere. Cops
of every type, and so the police there were just hanging out on horses, taking videos of us, like, oh look, a day in the office. It's pretty fun. And then the fall after that, I went to an impromptu Ferguson protest in Baltimore. That was a very different feel. There were like two at the same time. No one knew where we were going, and we were walking around, and a lot of people were screaming at the cops. But at the same time, the cops were following us around, having no idea where we were going, and making sure cars didn't hit us. So it was kind of like it was interesting because we were like, oh, thank you, cops, but we're mad at cops in general. Not you folks who are saving our lives, but in general. And we ended up on I-83 in Baltimore, like on the highway, and we were like, how did we get here? What's happening? And
you were involved in that, Parker?
What?
You were there?
This wasn't...
Well, I know, but I've heard about this too.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
From where?
Parker. You were on I-83.
Yeah, this was not the Freddie Gray protest.
Yes,
this was the Ferguson protest. But yeah, we were like just, and then me and two of my friends were like, oh, we better start thinking of ways we can get out of this, like, just in case. Like, okay, where's the nearest exit ramp? Could we jump? Like, we don't get run over by a car, but we didn't, luckily.
Yeah, that's it.
But unfortunately, I did not make it in to Baltimore for the Freddie Gray protests because I was very, very, very swamped with classes, and then I haven't really been protesting ever since.
I was in high school when that happened.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So my mom would not let me go.
That's fair.
I was actually supposed to have a date with Ben, our first date, on the day, like go into the city because his dad lived in the city. But my mom was like, let's not do that because of the protests going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Actually, I've learned that I'm not a very good protester because I'm definitely a pacifist, and there's a certain like. It's just feels for like I care about issues, but I am definitely not one to scream about issues. And so it's kind of fun. I'm not bad, but like both protests I went to, I was like, oh, a protest! Like that's not really like wow, isn't this so fun? You couldn't say fun. You had to be like life changing or like influential. You had to say all these like fancy people adjectives. But I was like, wow, this is so fun because at the end of the day, I was walking in the middle of the city on the road. Like, you don't get to do that much often.
It's definitely an experience.
Yeah. So I was trying to find, like, other protests to go to just to kind of, like, go to protests because they can be fun. But,
it's not a bad idea.
A lot of people love shouting and, like, they'll have all these really rhythmic chants and that's really fun. But when I would join the chants, I always get, like embarrassing tingles of stage fright almost. Like, oh, what am I doing? So I'm definitely a pacifist. I'm not the best protester.
I feel like I would be a good protester.
I think you could get into it.
Yeah, because sometimes I just do something just because I'm like, your idea's wrong. I'm going to go out and do what you don't think is right, and just to spite you.
There's a lot of groupthink while you're in a protest in, like, the downtown of Baltimore. So, or D.C. even. So there's a lot of, like, I'm just mad. It's, like, very empowering, but also very fascinating to kind of lose yourself in the heat of the crowd. You know who I think would make a really good protester?
Who?
Alex Roberts. I don't think he cares enough about social issues, but he loves shouting.
He does love shouting.
But he doesn't like people. So I think a lot of people... He'd be a good protester of one.
He'd be like the solo guy on the corner.
Hey!
Just the
one you think is kind of probably messed up in the head, but you still, like, just wave to him. Anyways.
You're just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, we filled our intermission time pretty fast.
Well, that's good.
Do you have any words of advice or plugs or shout-outs to our audience?
Happy birthday, Mia.
Happy birthday, Mia.
You don't know this yet because I'm assuming you're not listening.
Yeah, I don't think she's listening.
But I can't wait to see you at your surprise birthday party soon.
Hopefully I get to stop by. I don't know if I have time.
I'm actually getting texts from someone who doesn't know where the party is.
Oh, there you go.
So I have to figure that out.
Well, thanks so much for doing two things on the show today, Alexis.
Yeah, of course.